Hello, everyone. I'm Jean-Claude Beyond Mystic, and welcome to this deep woo-woo episode entitled Galactic Download with IndigoAngel. You can find her work at IndigoAngel222.com and also here on YouTube at IndigoAngel. Indigo, welcome back to the show.
Hey, Jean-Claude. Thank you so much for having me back. I'm excited, as always, to dive into the deep woo-woo with you. And I guess we have a lot to talk about today.
Got a lot to talk about today. Absolutely. You sent me these notes last night, and as I was going through them and reading them and preparing the slide deck for this episode, I was like, whoa, this is some pretty deep stuff. Well, first of all, thank you so much, everyone in the audience, for joining us for this show. We are going to be delving into I guess some difficult topics in the sense of hidden occulted knowledge. Mm-hmm. And every time you look into these occulted topics, sometimes things tend to look back at you. So let's just put it that way. Above me right now is a Merkaba. So if you want to do a Merkaba protection as well as you're getting involved in this particular information flow, might be good for you. So let's start there, Indigo. Maybe set up a quick protection around this episode. How would you want to frame that for the audience? Let's start there, and then I'll ask you to set up the context for the audience here as well.
Okay, sure. I mean, as far as protection, I always recommend to seal and protect your astral field with the silver flame, with the blue flame, with the emerald flame. And Jean-Claude just came out of the screen. Was that intentional? Oh, he said he'd be right back. Yeah, and I just basically tell people to, wear some sort of protection. You can wear crystal protection. You can wear EMF protection. Essentially, we're just going to be talking about these topics today, so I don't feel like it's absolutely fundamentally necessary that you, need to just go and put yourself in a spacesuit or something. We're just basically going to be sharing information today that basically came through, of course, Galactic download and the transmissions that I've been receiving over the last week. I mean, if you go look over the work that I've put out for the last week, I've been talking primarily about the Pegasus systems. And when I'm talking about Pegasus systems, I'm literally talking about the celestial body, the radial intelligence influence that basically penetrates the grids, works within coalitions with other star systems on a subatomic level of reality fields that basically are like the fundamentals to what essentially allows these certain collective reality fields to manifest. And also with the Pegasus system specifically that we're going to kind of talk about today, it leaves this undetectable, very much this encrypted radial intelligence signature that interweaves into several different agencies here on the Earth, several different experiments that have happened throughout time, several different technologies and sciences, government agencies, and basically Pegasus represents it's a very interesting signature because it follows the encryption of horses. It follows the encryption of winged horses. Okay, so this comes from, at least within Greek mythology, this energy encryption was birthed through Poseidon. Poseidon was the father of horses. Poseidon was the father of the winged horse. Pegasus was birthed from the decapitated head of Medusa. It leaves a string between wells in the earth, water systems in the earth, but also within, it's also used within the military, the deep governmental sciences and systems as well. So it's a very universal system. In terms of galactic history, it essentially is one that is not spoken about in terms of their participation here on Earth as much or as often. Because when we just see this mythical horse, we see this, beautiful horse that honestly represents a lot of benevolency. When I came into the awareness of Pegasus, which was like a very long time ago, I was, coming into my life purpose, and I really felt like the emblem of the winged horse kind of represented that on a higher level. But then there's also this deep state level of it where it comes into collective mind or collective awareness, and it's used through different levels of the military and deep state and intelligence and secret agencies and all of this stuff. So it's a little hard to completely define, but I'm going to try to do that today.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that introduction. And thank you for taking the steering wheel for a moment here. My dog was going ballistic. There was somebody at the door, so I had to leave quickly. And you didn't miss a beat, Indigo. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. Funny enough, Robin Barnett on the screen says, "Hey, Indigo, I loved your remote viewing of the DIA. Just incredible." Speaking about that, when you look at Indigo's YouTube channel right now, for some reason, that video is not coming up. So I'm going to refresh that and show the audience what I see here. And so as I was preparing for this slide deck, I'm like, wait, 3 days ago, Indigo just posted this about an hour ago. Where the hell is the video? So even if you click on video right now, anyways, where I'm at on my distributed server on YouTube, I can't find it. Although it does come up on my subscription feed, it's still there. So there's something mysterious about this video. You want to start there and explain a little bit the remote viewing? Is that fair to start here?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So I was guided to do a remote view on the DIA airport because I really was just following the encryption of Pegasus. Okay, so it's always like one thing leads me into the next thing, and I'm just kind of following this radial wave of information. And basically, yeah, thank you. Awesome. Yeah, thank you for watching. I appreciate that so much. I really felt really empowered when I was delivering this because I really had been remote viewing it over the last few days, and that kind of seems how I am seeing into things. At least that's kind of how I'm going about it. Like I've been there for a while checking things out, and it's like finally I get to deliver it. But I had been following the encryption of Pegasus, the horse symbolism. And what I had noticed is I sent you that picture of the Montauk Project, the horse on the front of the cover of the book of the Montauk Project. Well, it is strikingly resemblant to the horse Lucifer that is out front of the DIA airport. Okay, so, and the more I've dived into the studies of Montauk projects and what kind of went down there in Montauk, New York, and Camp Hero, essentially this was a governmental project that took on experiments to dive deeper into time travel. And there was a lot of things they did there. Montauk, though, had somewhat of it was like traumatic. It was like a lot of negative things. There was like mind control that happened there. There was they did, psychological experiments on people to try to find out how to time travel. They were experimenting with Nikola Tesla technology and things like this with radiant energy to basically open and close time portals. It said that facets of MK Ultra and things like this were done under the Montauk Project. A lot of things were done under the Montauk Project, Rainbow Project, the Philadelphia experiments, the one where the ship, disappeared and came back. There's just a lot of mysteriousness of things that happened there. They said that
also, just sorry to interrupt. Is that also where they were experimenting with this chair, where people would sit in this chair, and I don't know if they were able to control spacecraft or to actually traverse time. There was something about the Montauk chair at some point, and I'm trying to see if I'm confusing that with somebody else. I think I had that in a conversation with Carrie Cassidy maybe a year ago. Do you recall what I'm talking about? Am I confusing things?
I don't recall specifically a chair, but I wouldn't doubt it. They definitely were doing. They were tampering with like the biomagnetic fields. They were doing like electric shock, to basically break down people's biosphere, their magnetic sphere, to be able to, because when they weaken the magnetic field, it's easier for them to be able to, go through time portals. As far as the chair, I'm not too sure specifically, but possibly.
Okay. Oh, well, that's interesting. I'll try to go and look back. These episodes were deleted probably on my first channel, so I'm not sure if they're still around. But yeah, there was something fascinating about a chair and how it was connecting to, I guess, your meridians in your back, and you were like interfacing with this particular chair. I forget the concept of it, or it could have been with Dr. Richard Allen Miller who told me about that. At any rate, it's fascinating. So let's go back to the DIA remote viewing here.
Okay, yeah. So following the symbolism, I've kind of had this intuitive hunch that the Montauk projects could have just been simply moved from Montauk, New York to the DIA airport. They both seem to carry this frequency of time manipulation. And one of the reasons and other ways that I've seen that was if you look at like an aerial viewpoint of the runway at the DIA airport, the runway is laid out in the shape of a swastika. In some of my other studies, I've always tied the swastika or the corruption of that symbolism to a lot of Draco manipulation here on Earth and things like this. And because that swastika really represents the time functioning and the synchronization of the metagalactic core, right? On like a higher level, according to like the Indian rishis and things like this, the true Aryans, like that symbolism was actually like a sacred symbol, like it represented like benevolency, but this was tainted during the Aryan occultist timelines and things like this. So they basically taken this symbolism and it represents the altercation of time. Okay. And what the Dracos have done, at least through my own psychic viewpoint of this and my own research and my studies, according to my Draco Aryan occultist seal removal video, if you've seen that, I've talked about how they've taken the swastika and they've basically have imprinted it in iron in specific locations in the central vertical column of the plan to basically tamper with time, with pole manipulation, with solar manipulation, everything that they're basically doing there. So when I see the imprint of this symbolism, it allows me to see psychically that there may be a Draco seal fundamentally inserted into the grid structures of that area or location or perimeters in which I'm trying to remote view. And so I kind of seen this at the DIA airport with that symbolism being just so visible, I guess, aerially when you're looking down on there. Ways in which Dracos would imprint seals would be through like certain metals into the grids, like iron or some sort of metal, basically, is how they kind of tamper and manipulate that geometric structure into the stargates or even into the location in which they're trying to tamper or seal that perspective of reality, I guess, within that timeline. Is that kind of making sense?
Yeah, it does. Somebody was asking in the chat, what is DIA? Denver International Airport is the acronym. And Laura says, yes, wow, remembering there was a chair. And somebody else was talking about a jump room. D. Luca, yeah, the chair is in the jump room. I'm presuming those were the jump rooms to Mars. And again, I'm trying to remember. It was probably an episode with either Carrie Cassidy or Dr. Richard Allen Miller. That's absolutely fantastic. Now, the swastika itself, do you see that? I'm trying to figure out if we can find an overhead view. I remember seeing this years ago where the layouts of the ground as they were digging and all that, you can clearly see that it was in the design, or at least there was a partial design of the swastika there. I'm trying to find that image now to show you. Most of the images on YouTube are like at an angle right now, and you can't see that. Do you remember seeing that?
Yeah, so if you want to go to the map that I sent you, so I kind of charted this out after I did my remote view because I was like, I'm just going to put what I see like on my map really quick. So if you go to the DIA airport, yeah, I kind of labeled it. But yeah, you can see. You zoom out a little bit.
Oh, that's what you mean. Yes, yeah, the runways. Okay, yeah. And you know what? There was another structure, I think, before the airport, the top portion of the airport was on. You know how they were digging and they had tunnels and stuff? At that time, too, I remember seeing pictures. I'm like, my God, that looks a lot like a swastika. And then they built the airport on top of that. So apparently there's these huge underground tunnels there as well, how deep it goes and where it connects to. Did you do anything in terms of your remote viewing for the tunnels as well?
Yeah, there was a lot that I seen for the remote viewing with the tunnels. Well, there was a lot of ways in which I came in to scan and see it. Some of it was like, aerial, some of it was underground, some of it was from memory, some of it felt more like location. But in terms of the tunnels, I kept seeing, like I was going down, into the tunnel area. I seen, a lot of empty rooms. I kept feeling like the presence of a DUM, or like a deep under military base. I sensed that it was maybe like 5 stories deep. I kept seeing like the number 3 on the corridors. So I felt like that the tunnels that were actually going somewhere that mattered in accordance to what the DIA was being ran for, which I feel is like global defense systems. It seemed like those were going out of the 3rd runway. And I was seeing that the tunnel systems were going down the far east side of Colorado, down to Colorado Springs and down to NORAD. And that they also cut across through like specific parks and areas that, so they could have built that without being easily, seen or identified, and then cut across down to boulder facilities. And that they
and
also
then
may have
Mountain also. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Now, do you recall, maybe you've heard this too in an interview, again, this is on one of my early shows, some gentleman, and I forget who it was now, had explained to me that at some point during the construction phase, he kind of got lost in the airport, and he was in the below sections. At a certain point, he opened the door, huge corridors, very tall doors all of a sudden, like the whole architecture had changed. And so he walked into one room, which to him he thought it was the bathroom. And of course it was the bathroom, but the bathroom stalls and the urinals for the men were like 3 or 4 feet higher than they normally are, when you go to the movies or a restaurant or anything like that. And he thought to himself, oh my God, what type of giant comes down here? Like, so have you done anything in terms of remote viewing to see maybe what other entities are connecting through this particular portal?
Well, I wasn't seeing giants. I seen that in terms of a galactic level, that I feel that there's this highly like a Draco initiative. It's highly a New World Order initiative. It's highly a sorry, just reading that down below. That the Pegasus systems are definitely running here. So there's definitely in terms of technology, I feel like, for one, artificial intelligence. And how I'm seeing this is that there's like a giant like computer sphere or like database encryption, like networking system that's like, down into the dumb systems and down into the lower levels of the airport. And that this is running, storage from AI, from their Pegasus spyware programs, or from their the advanced systems in which they monitor the world and collect data, and time travel altercation, altering the magnetic sphere of the airport to shift that and actually create those portals, or for those time travel to actually take place. And so in terms of beings that I'm seeing, like the specific beings, no, I just see that encryption to people who are in coalitions or who are in participation with these types of things. And what I was seeing was, Draco, Mantis, Zetas, Pegasus systems. But Pegasus systems, I don't want to say necessarily are malevolent. They're just used as a tool.
Right.
They're used as a tool.
Now, in terms of the Draco, it's very possible that some of those Dracos do visit from time to time. If this is a portal or a gateway, it could, like some people say, it also that it has maybe some connections to CogCon, so continuity of government, and that there are facilities there that bring together world leaders and off-world leaders together. And this might be perhaps why some of the architecture down there is built to accommodate different body frames. So if you're talking about the Draco or even the Mantids, I'm not sure the Mantids appear here in 3D, although they might. I know the Dracos, I think, can. So that's very fascinating. Catherine Marie says, hi there, JC. Elena Danon had a guest who recently experienced what is being said now. I believe she's mentioning the architecture below. So that's very interesting. I've had Elena Danon on the show a couple of times already. We did this book review series from her book. Let's see if I can bring it up for the audience because if you guys haven't read this yet, go check it out. It's called A Gift from the Stars, Alien Races by Elena Danan. Really, really fascinating. Yeah, at any rate, so going back to the story here of the airport, now you mentioned the Pegasus software. Do you want to get into that and explain a little bit to the audience how you perceive that, like it's intelligence gathering to, on the main level, but it's much, much more than that. So do you want to get into that now here a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So the Pegasus spyware was it was developed by NSO Group in Israel, I believe, and it's basically it's a program that governments is being sold to governments. I think it's been sold to like 10 or 12 governments at this point, Russia being one. I think China, Mexico. I can't remember every single one, but essentially it's a spyware program that they put on your phone, and they can it can go to iOSs and Androids. Yeah, like it says there, and it basically can track everything you've ever done on your phone: calls, messages, pictures, bank statement, everything you've ever done, internet searches. And so it's said that I think like 50,000 people are actually being monitored as of right now under the Pegasus spyware, primarily journalists and politicians. But I was watching some Edward Snowden, and he was saying that at some point this could go very global, going from 50,000 people being monitored to 50 million in the blink of an eye. And then, democracy at that point definitely might be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. And is that perhaps what they were building? Is it the Utah data center, that massive data center that's underground? I believe that's the one here, but this one is not underground. But there's something else in that neck of the woods again, maybe being used as technology to not only collect all of this data, but to, I guess, curate it in some way for some specific use. Now, as you're doing your remote viewing, are you seeing that it's mostly humans that are in charge of this software, or where's this information going? And is there off-world connection here as well in terms of the monitoring?
There's definitely off-world connections. In terms of the monitoring, yeah, I can't say for sure who. I feel like it has a lot to do with artificial intelligence. And like you said, data collection, like when you're referring to that Utah thing. So, whether there's, I keep seeing that there's like this like super computer, like this super quantum like AI computer that's like kind of like that data thing where it's like collecting all data, like it's collecting everything into this database, and what the government is doing with it, and who they are connected in terms of galactic informants and things like this. Like I cannot say for sure like which races specifically are involved, but just know there's definitely higher levels of intelligence, ultra-terrestrial, extraterrestrial, and artificial intelligence that are all at play with all of these things.
It's always much, much, much more complicated than we're led to believe, isn't it, Indigo? Incredible. Okay, let's go back to my notes page. Somebody above was asking, hey, JC, have the link. So it's always beyondmystic.net/notes. And this is where, when we have these more complicated episodes, I put the notes for you guys and the links so that you can share with us. Okay, the next thing we had here was
I wanted to tell you really quickly about the Lucifer, though, what I was seeing.
Oh, okay, let's go back to that.
Yeah, on the remote view. Okay. So if you guys know the story of Lucifer, he was when he was getting installed basically at the DIA airport, he fell on the artist who was, creating him and killed him.
Yeah.
So I kind of like attuned into his energy, remote viewed into his energy, and I see like a portal structure underneath him. And then when I kind of tuned into that, I seen it was like a portal, but it was like concentric circles that seemed to be going down into the ground, into the first and the second density. And then I seen Anubis, and I felt Anubis's energy, or like Anubis's presence. And it almost felt like Anubis had been set there as like a guardian, because it did feel like souls or spirits were coming in and out of that Luciferian portal. And it almost felt like Anubis kind of came into the picture to almost protect what was kind of happening there.
Wow. Let's talk about Anubis. What's his role there, and how do you tie this in together? And it's curious that we're bringing in now Egyptology into the mix here. And a lot of our shows, and you and I have done our live shows from the pyramids when you were there last year, I believe, in the fall. So, okay, so explain to the audience again, first of all, who's Anubis, and what do you see his role being right now in this portal underneath Lucifer?
So Anubis is a guide of the underworld. He was involved in the embalming and basically in the crossing over processes, the death processes, in Egypt. And the way that I see him there as a guardian of that gateway. And it's interesting. So I kind of like looked it up after I did the remote view, because I was like, why am I seeing Anubis's energy here? And I was like, put it into Google, and it said that there was actually an Anubis statue at the DIA airport.
Wow, that's fascinating. Okay. Oh man, I'd like to read more.
Yeah. Just look that up. Google that really quick.
Which part?
See if you can pull up the Anubis statue there.
At the airport?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I see him in different places here. Okay, so not everyone thrilled with Anubis statue at the IA. Well, there you go, the Denver Post article. Not everyone thrilled with Anubis statue at the IA. Okay, so this is them putting the head back on here. Okay. And where's okay, so he's on a cement block. Okay, so he's fixed there. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. And I was not even aware of that when I was doing this remote view. I just, after I get the information, then I start looking stuff up, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, wow. It's just so crazy. Yeah. So when I had tuned into it, I just had kind of seen him standing at that gateway, and it was just like he was guarding, like he was sent there by spirit to like guard what was happening through those passageways. And so I just kind of seen him as more of a benevolent presence there. Like protecting travelers and things like this.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Wow. Man, that opens up a lot there. I'm trying to contain myself here because you have a lot more notes, and we have to share that with the audience here. So perhaps we'll do a part 2 on this Anubis character and some of the underground happenings here at this airport. I'm getting a lot of downloads as we're talking. Okay.
Yeah, he's definitely a very strong presence. Wow. He's definitely a protector of the underworld. He's protector of all 12 gates of the underworld. And so Lucifer took a sacrifice to DIA. Yeah, I mean, that's why the horse is called Lucifer. I mean, he literally murdered the artist. Wow. I mean, so it's just very, very interesting.
Very interesting. Somebody says, Molly Elizabeth, JC, you're on that list. What list? Come on, man. I have a spiritual show. I'm in nobody's list. Come on. She's talking about the database. Okay, tracking people and politicians. Come on, I'm not in politics. I'm nobody. I'm John Mystic. What are you talking about? All right. Okay, thank you for that. All right, so let's track back here to our, Nexus. Okay, let's talk about this. Explain this to the audience here, how this ties into everything.
Again, I seen that through the Pegasian encryption, which is just the radio intelligence fields of that star system, right? Riding the radio waves in which it transmits here on Earth. I just seen a lot of connections here to the Nexus systems. And kind of the deeper I start diving into it, it is tied to Pegasus projects. And it's just, if you start to think about the Horth mythology here on Earth, how it's always been used as a war tool. It's always been used as a tool for mankind to get to its nexus, which is the process of expanding territory or colonization, either that's globally or interplanetary exploration. And so Pegasus is kind of at the forefront of subatomic radial spectrum that's propagating the expansion of these types of networks and systems to manifest here on Earth. And I feel that the Nexus system is also connected to not only the frequency of the DIA airport, the Montauk projects, but also DARPA, defense.
Intelligence agency.
Yeah. Defense. Thank you. All of this is amping up because the frequency of war is in the grids. And when the frequency of war is in the grids, that's when you see Pegasus systems start to expose themselves, basically. Because, they represent the white horse and the dark horse on the checkerboard, on the global game, the global checker game of information. And they're used as pawns and tools to, get us to our nexus. And so that's kind of how I tied in that project or agency into just the totality of what Pegasus is doing here on Earth.
And I always thought that was interesting about the checkered floor here in Freemasonry. Of course, this big game that we're in, and you just alluded to it here as well. That's fascinating. Okay, somebody here says, Derek, LOL, JC, you went from yanking Janine last night for non-code words, and now you're dropping bombs after bombs here on the show. I know, this is a weird show.
I want to tell you, we had this conversation before we got on where he was like, I don't know about this. You're absolutely right. Like, we do have to actually, be careful and speak encodedly as much as possible, which we're totally not. It's just really hard to come up with encoded dynamic right before you put a show on. Like, we should really change Montauk to something different,
Right, exactly. But that's the thing with Janine. Of course, we were talking. I think she was talking about a specific city where something had happened a couple of years ago, which might have been not actual. Anyways, that's all I'll say. So it's easy to change the words on that stuff. We've been at it for so long, but this is so much new nomenclature, and we're trying to grasp at straws here. And again, Indigo and I were just talking about this before the show. I'm like, well, it's not like I have an ex-CIA deep operative. You don't give me code words here. It's just, it's just Indigo and Angel and myself having a conversation. What do we know? We know nothing.
That's true. And we're basically discussing things that are all over the internet. Anyways,
yeah.
This is all stuff you can easily pull up on Wikipedia or just, drop in the search, and you can extensively research all of these things yourself. In terms of DARPA, they have a website that you can go to and you can look at what they're doing, all kinds of, defense projects and, things for our national security. And I do feel like this also ties into the Pegasus intelligence systems, that the Pegasus encryption is kind of running through these things as the expansion of technology. And so,
okay, let's go back to our list here and see if we're missing anything else. So Nexus we did, okay. And then, so DARPA, Pegasus software we did. What am I missing and stuff? Okay, so let's go back to the reading here. Where does this end, this particular DIA remote viewing? Like, if you had to maybe summarize the three main points here for the audience, what do they need to know? They can go watch the full episode, of course, but just for the sake of this conversation, what would be the three main points here that came out for you that we need to understand?
Yeah, I think the main points would be that there is the potential here that the Montauk project, no, I don't want to say it, could have potentially be moved here, and that these experiments and these technologies and that these, advancements and things that they were doing there may have been somewhat of a continuation here at the DIA airport. Also, just awareness in global defense strategies that the DIA airport is more of a multifunctioning system. Oh, thank you, Ronnie. And it's not just an airport that may be this intergalactic freeway for, all kinds of different beings to come and have, international galactic affairs here at the Day Airport, but that this is also feed into our global defense systems, where these underground tunnels may be, leading into mountain bunker systems and things like this, where what I was seeing psychically is that there are multiple inner city bunker systems along the Rocky Mountains that are not necessarily, that those are definitely like on the deep, like intel, like need to know, like NORAD would probably be like the only one at this point in time that's, made known in public. But I feel like that's because it's protected by the Fort Carson military base there. But I do feel there's probably a string of interconnected bunker systems and underground cities that are prepared for anything that could happen globally. And these initiatives started at the time of the Cold War because of the threat of nuclear warfare. But essentially, I think that our awareness of these things are just kind of amping up just in terms of what's happening in terms of current events.
Well, let's talk about that. 107, probably in February of this year. And this is subsequent to the things that happened in January. We won't mention that. But he was saying at that point that Cheyenne Mountain was buttoned up real time as if it were in wartime, and it has been since that time. So there's something there that's happening. Again, whether it's continuity of government, whether it's the United States understanding that there is a war going on and that they are currently under attack, right? So we might be seeing a surface basically show or montage, a pretend version of everything's okay, everything's fine, things are running smoothly. But in the back end, it appears that at least one part of the military believes that we are at war right now. So did you tie into that at all as you're doing your remote viewing, and any feeling with respect to that?
I'm a little bit, I always kind of see things from like a galactic astrological alignment. The thing that kind of tipped me off was when, we had the fall of Kabul, Afghanistan. That happened under a alignment of Antares. The Antares, or the moon was in Antares, August 15th through the 17th. And that's kind of when that took place. And so I just kind of that's when I started to see the Pegasus encryption come up, because I'm like, okay, Antares and Pegasus always seem to go hand in hand. Antares is representing the war on the Earth. And we're going to be coming into the Antares season. We're going to be coming into Antares starting November 9th. And I really just kind of foreseen or getting these precursor messages that whatever's unfolding or whatever is manifesting at this point in time, with us pulling our troops out of Afghanistan, Kamala Harris going down to the Indonesian Pacific and just making sure we still have allies there, all of these things, like, what's, like you said, we're just seeing the story of what they want us to see right now. But, there's definitely defense preparations that are preparing globally right now. It's not just us, it's all over the place. Everyone's kind of, I think, in a strategy of falling back on their defense systems. And I think that's, why we have these activation. The DIA airport comes up, NORAD comes up, like these are our defense strategies if stuff hits the fan. Right. And so that's just kind of, I guess, what I'm seeing.
Let me bring up this episode. This is an uncensored show here with Janine. It's the last recording on the 18th of this week here. It's available now for the audience here on pay-per-view. But we talked about what's written in red here. But what was interesting in this episode is we pulled cards on the military withdrawal from Afghanistan, whether that was a defeat per se in Afghanistan, or if, like Benjamin Fulford was saying, it was more a strategic replacement of troops back on United States soil, and also in some strategic places in Europe for something that is about to come, right? So it's a repositioning of troops for much bigger fish to fry, basically, than what Afghanistan was on the radar. What do you make of that? Does that sound right to you?
It resonates with me. Yeah, it does. Not like I can see the full picture, but I've definitely just been getting the messages, preparation for global warfare. That's just, I've been just getting the words in my head. And so I don't like to say those things because I don't like to project that into the collective or, into the world or into the reality to manifest it. Because I mean, it is powerful, and we do manifest these things when we speak them.
Well, it's like anything else. If the doctor doesn't tell you you have an onset of cancer, then you're not going to take those moves to heal yourself of that cancer, right? So if there is a potential for some difficult times ahead, us knowing about it, not catastrophizing or creating it, also enables us to vote and say, no, we don't want that. We want to create this, right? And then focus our energy on what we want to create. And that's why we have these conversations on these shows. And for the most part, the audience understands why we bring things up when sometimes it's hard to digest, but at the same time, we're growing up as humans and we can't pretend, oh, la, 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 everything's okay, everything's fine, external savior myth. That's no longer in our cards. We're moving into this age of Aquarius, and we are responsible for that self-mastery and that knowledge. So, wow. Okay. Ronnie says, smash the likes. Yes, I agree. All right.
Yeah, no, you said that really good. I loved what you just said. And it's interesting too, because I had pulled up Joe Biden's birth chart. And he has a lot of placements of Antares. I just feel like that's very interesting, coming into the time that we're in when we're at, the 20th year anniversary of 9/11. And, here we go, like starting to make those big moves on the checkerboard, right? And we have an Antares chief in command with his 3 placements of Antares in his Sun, Mercury, and his Venus. So I feel that Antares, which is the war chief, may fully manifest itself here in 2021.
And you just mentioned, of course, the day before September 12th. And of course, the numerology is on that plane. So this is the famous plane supposedly leaving and everybody running after it here to try to hitch a ride out of the Afghanistan or the Kabul airport. And of course, there are reports here that this was maybe staged for some reason. And this is actually one of their inflatable planes that they use as movie props. But let it be known that that number there is right there, of course. So speak about that, your intuition about this 20-year anniversary. Talk about Biden's chart a little bit more. How does this all tie in to him? Is he being set up here to be replaced, to set the 25th Amendment on him, to maybe put Kamala Harris into place? Or is there a much, much bigger picture here happening in terms of this, what appears to be a total clusterfuck or disaster for this pretendency?
Those are all really, really good questions that I don't really have answers to all those questions, to be honest with you. It's just kind of baffling, and I think it's just really unknown. I mean, we can't really kind of see what's playing out underneath all of it as of yet. So much is still unfolding.
Well, speak to what you know about Biden and the birth chart. What did you want to share with the audience there? Why did that trigger you in terms of the timings? Do you want to bring that up?
Just looking at his chart, it was just something I pulled his chart at the beginning of his presidency. I always do that on just people who are coming up with, big energy, just kind of look deeper into them. And yeah, he has 3 alignments just directly culminated and aligned to Antares. And, the Sun, Mercury, the Venus, those are very predominant positions. So this is the way this man thinks. This is his energy. This is his personality. This is his passion. This is his heart. So he is a manifestation of the entire system here in the collective in this time. So that I think that speaks a lot to what's going to be playing out during his presidency. He's in this position with these markers to be making these big military type decisions. And this is coming close to the intelligence of the metagalactic core, because Antares is very, very close within a couple 100 light year spectrum to the metagalactic core. This is like the celestial chief in command. So however people feel about him, because a lot of people feel like, he's a clone, and he may as well be a clone. I've heard a lot of people say that, that's not really Joe Biden, that his vessel's being used for intelligences or other type of agendas to kind of use his body as a force or whatever to implement their agendas. Whether that is or isn't true, I can't say for sure, but I just do feel that in terms of what's supposed to manifest and play out, that Antares is speaking through Joe Biden.
Okay, that's fascinating. Wow, I never thought about it that way. But yeah, whether he's a clone, a step in, a walk in, whatever's going on there, again, this could be part of that just on the surface facade that we're seeing. But Indigo is really trying to get the audience here to understand that there's more happening here below the surface. And that was that big reading here at the DIA airport. So let me bring that link back down, guys. If you haven't seen that and you're just now joining us for this episode, you can click on this link and go check that remote viewing from IndigoAngel. Okay, Indigo, back to our notes. Is there anything else for the show notes for today that you think we missed, or is there anything else that's coming to mind now that you want to share in the context of this conversation?
I feel like I kind of just skimmed over the last 3 videos that I've put out, just kind of quickly summarizing things with you. So if people are activated by anything that I talked about today, they can always go check out the last 3 videos I did, the Project Pegasus Montauk Project, the video I did with Miss Kimberkiss, and then also my remote view of the DIA airport. That would definitely fill in some of the gaps that maybe I wasn't able to get to in full explanation today. I kind of go deeper into the wormholes in all of those videos.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And how about in the last couple of minutes of the show here, is there anything, do you want to maybe do a live download and try to figure out here what source would want to tell the audience members as to what is to come? We just talked about that maybe this military is being repositioned for something else to come. So what would you say to the audience, or if you wanted to do a live meditation here or a download to try to tell them what they need to know here to maybe navigate the next couple of weeks and months here in that context?
In terms of maybe doing a meditation, I usually try to leave those for my Patreons, which I'll be going over to do some stuff on Patreon very soon. I do offer the J seal removals and the Draco Aryan Occultist seal removals, but in terms of just current messages, at least a lot of my friends who are definitely on the deep intel aspect of things, they're prepping right now. A lot of them are prepping. A lot of them are preparing for bug out bags, making sure they have water resources, making sure that they have some type of off-grid potential in their future, just kind of having like a plan in place. Just to kind of start planting those seeds if you haven't been thinking about them, because I think we kind of slip in and out of that being something of relevance or importance to us as we kind of get back into falling into the normalcy of things. But then when stuff goes down, then all of a sudden, definitely with COVID, that, I feel like that ignited that frequency of like, maybe we're not just living in this perfect world, and maybe we do actually need to prepare for these things. And so I think we've kind of settled back into a little bit of comfort, that the ones who are sleeping and genetically altered and walking around without souls, how they're all going around getting the jobs as we speak. But essentially, we fall back into getting comfortable. And so I think just the overall message would be to maybe just keep that seed in the back of your mind right now, that we might potentially need to kind of make sure we have those safety things in place at this time.
I like that. I've been espousing that since the beginning of this show. There's always good reasons to be prepared. Of course, if you're an old Boy Scout, you're always prepared for stuff, and it doesn't mean that you're creating that, but you're prepared for things that happen. Sometimes it's just Mother Nature. I remember having an ice storm here in 2000, or was it 1999 or 2000, around that area. And we were like 21 days without power here. So, things happen. But in the context of what Indigo is saying now too, there's so many things happening on the geopolitical world stage right now that never hurts to top up some of your resources. Now, on top of that, maybe speak also to the human vessel. These are the vessels in which are the vehicles, if you wish, for our souls right now to traverse this period of time in front of us. So what can you tell to the audience there also about preparing this vessel to maybe harden it up a little bit, maybe change the tires, change the oil, so to speak, so that we're in better fighting shape here moving forward? What would you say to them for that?
Oh, well, first of all, I would say don't live in fear. Because I think the things we're talking about, I mean, even before we came into this video, you're like, let's gear them up, let's protect their light body fields. And it's like, like, don't live in fear, because that really immediately kind of drops your frequency down to like the 3D. And really on a higher timeline, if you're really truly oscillating and having the spin field rotation of 5D, those things aren't necessarily going to impact your life so much. I mean, and I feel like I'm an example of this, that when all of this is going down, I mean, when COVID was going down, I mean, I was traveling everywhere and like going to gate sites and just still like living my life. And I feel like it's because I was holding, a 5D frequency. I was committed. I was on mission. I was living in my life purpose. I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. And and so I didn't really feel as affected as the people around me.
You have to understand, though, that you are resonating at a very high frequency, and sometimes you're a little bit too woo for my woo-woo show. So for the audience out there who are just tipping their toes into the woo, I think what Indigo is saying, too, is raise your frequency. That's it. Yeah. Raise your frequency. Your body will adjust a lot better to what's coming up than if you're in these lower frequencies. So if that means for you eating a little bit better, if it means going outside, being in the sun, being in nature, hugging a tree, going in the water, doing some meditation, then do what's right for you to raise that frequency. I think that's the best we can say for now. Let me thank a few of our PayPal tip jar donators today. Rhonda, thank you so much. She says, sending love from Ronnie. Thank you so much, Ronnie. And I think there was another one. Danielle Lettuce. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. You guys are amazing. You make it possible for me to be out here, of course, as we were demonetized and terminated a few times here on YouTube already for having these informational conversations. All right. These are the things that we have to live through. Indigo, anything else you want to share with the audience before we go today? Oh, wait. Actually, you have a coupon code for people who want to book a session with you. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I have a special package for my family here at Beyond Mystic, and this includes a Starseed origin reading, a one-on-one, like a miniature one-on-one to kind of go over that reading and prepare you for a J-seal removal, and then also includes the J-seal removal, and also a PDF of my book as well.
Okay, very good. So that's the Cadillac there. I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is already discounted. So it's discount. Okay, so it's a 433.32 value. You've discounted here at 388, and on top of that, you have the Beyond Mystic discount to be applied to that as well at the checkout. Is that correct?
That's correct. So at checkout, you just want to put in Beyond Mystic 3, all lowercase, and it will take another 10% off of that.
Beyond Mystic and 3, the number 3.
Yes.
Okay, very good. And I want to make sure I have that in the description box below in this video as well. Hold on, folks. I'm just going to make sure it's there because I think when we lost the last channel, some of these coupon codes didn't carry over in my descriptions. Let me just check. Edit. Beyond Mystic 3 is there. Okay, good. So I'll just do a cut and paste there and put that in the live chat for everyone here. And of course, if you guys are watching on replay, you'll find these links in the description box below. Wow. What a cool episode. Indigo. That was the Galactic Download with IndigoAngel. Join us again in 2 weeks from now. Indigo and I are doing these every 2 weeks on Thursdays, normally at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So check the calendar here in the next couple of days as I recreate the poster for that next episode. And in the meantime, please do go and subscribe to IndigoAngel here on YouTube, and also support her on her Patreon, where there you can find a lot of those, what you refer to as the J-seal removal removals and the meditations there for her private group. And that can be found at patreon.com/IndigoAngel. Last but not least, please remember to like, share, and subscribe here at Jean-Claude at Beyond Mystic 3. And we'll see you later. Thank you so much, everyone. I love you guys. Have a great day, and au revoir.